everybody. Welcome to my book talk. My name is Arabella Gastelum, and today I'm going to be talking about two of my favorite childhood books, Ferris by Gil Carson Levine and Josefina, an American Girl. And I forget who this is by, but I'll double check right now. So starting off with Ferris. Ferris is sort of like a spin-off of the Snow White story. There's a few key differences though, and it ends up having like a better moral in my opinion than the original Snow White story. So in this story, Ferris, we have the main character who, her name is Aza. So she lives at her parents' inn, and she's really, really great at singing, but she's not the prettiest, obviously. So at least she doesn't think so. And her parents agree, they kind of keep her in the back, and she just kind of cleans for them, so that's her end of the story. And apparently in her kingdom, there's only two things that are really important for women, which is like being a really good singer and being really beautiful. So she has one of those things, but the other, she's not so beautiful. So then when there's a new queen who could basically come to town, she marries the king, everybody thinks that that queen is really gorgeous, but it later turns out that she doesn't know how to sing really good at all, which kind of like puts a damper on her queenliness. So the queen ends up meeting Aza, and she basically pays her to sort of, it's almost like she throws her voice, so it seems as though the queen is singing, but really it's Aza who's singing for her. And so that sort of becomes her part-time job. But later Aza actually finds out that the queen isn't even actually beautiful. She uses this magic hand mirror, and that when she looks into it, it makes her really gorgeous. So she's basically conning everybody, and she's actually not a good person, the queen. She's actually really evil and manipulative. So that's basically where the story begins. And then of course Aza ends up falling in love with the prince, and all other manner of things happen as well. Aza ends up looking in the mirror on accident, and it's really good. I feel like the moral of the story ends up being about, you know, what beauty really means, how important is beauty, things like that. It's really a charming book. I like it a lot. I recommend. The second book that I have to read is Josefina, an American Girl. These are more of a, because it's a series, each book sort of has its own story and moral attached to it. But why I was really drawn to this series as a kid is because it's about a Mexican-American girl, Josefina Montoya is her name. The book takes place in 1824 in New Mexico. And what's really cool about the book, obviously, each story, it's just sort of like a different part of Josefina's life. So we have, you know, one when it's her birthday, one when it's Christmas. They're pretty simple stories, but she does learn a new sort of lesson or multiple lessons in each story. My favorite happens to be Josefina Learns a Lesson, which is basically where she learns how to read and go to school, and it's sort of like this whole lesson about how being educated doesn't necessarily have to change who you are, it can add to who you are, because at this time a lot of girls were not getting educated. And so when Josefina is faced with the chance to actually get an education, at first her and her sisters don't want to take that chance because their mother was not educated, and they feel like getting educated is going to take away from their culture and their connection with their mother and sort of like their femininity and things like that. But later in the story they realize that actually isn't true, and learning is really a great thing, and it can expand your horizons. So that's why this one's my favorite. Another cool thing about the book is at the very end of each book they have a historical section where they talk about you know, like different things going on in history during the time of 1824. They show like different artifacts, things like that. You know, they just talk about, you know, the history of women at that time. They, you know, it's really cool, all of the stuff that they show. And it's called Into the Past, by the way, sorry. Another really cool thing about this book is that because the character is Mexican-American, there is a lot of Spanish in this book. And what makes this book unique as opposed to other books, especially made for children, is that instead of explaining what the Spanish words mean in the story itself, they actually don't. They just, you know, name drop all these Spanish words without mentioning necessarily what they mean. I mean, there is context clues, but if you really want to find out the meaning, they have a glossary in the back with Spanish words that you actually have to turn to and look up yourself, which I think is really cool and really educational for children, you know, for them to realize that it's like not everything is going to be catered necessarily to one specific language, and it's okay to have to look things up, which I think is really awesome. So yeah, those are my 2 books. I hope you guys maybe are interested in them and want to check them out. Thank you for listening to my book talk. Have a nice day. Bye.